Shalom Uvracha. The last words of the second parashah of Kriyat Shema that we read this week in Parashas Eikev reflect or mirror the same words that we have in the first parashah, and they speak about the centrality of the teaching. They say, "V'samtem es dvarai eile," place these words, "Al levavchem v'al nafshechem," place them on your hearts, levavchem, which in the Torah means in your thoughts, in your mind, v'al nafshechem, and in your feelings, in how you feel and how you sense. And then v'limatem osames b'nechem, teach them to your sons, b'shivtecha b'veisecha, b'lechtecha v'derech, any spare moment you have. This is what you should be occupied with. B'shachbecha uv'kumecha, when you retire to go to sleep, uv'kumecha, and when you awaken in the morning. Meaning these ideas, these teachings should occupy us the whole time. We should go to sleep with them and we should awaken with them. And what are these ideas? So in the first parashah of Kriyat Shema, we have the ideas of Yichud Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's oneness, that He's one in the world. And the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ve'avta es Hashem Elokecha, to love Hashem. Those are the ideas of the first parashah. In the second parashah, the overarching idea is Schar ve'onesh, reward and punishment. If you'll heed my commandments, then then I'll give you the reward. You'll have rain, you'll have bounty. And if you won't heed my instructions, my commandments, then the land won't give its crop. Then you won't have what to eat. Reward and punishment. And the overarching, the underlying idea behind reward and punishment, what's the idea that this is teaching us? This teaches us that our deeds, that our own actions are significant. They're significant because we are in relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And what we do as a part of that relationship has consequences, has incredible consequences that make a difference to us individually and to us as a nation, and indeed for the entire world. That's how significant our actions are. But beyond that, for us today, those of us who have the zchus to live in Eretz Yisrael, then this takes on a different proportion. Because this whole parashah is speaking about Eretz Yisrael. And the previous passages, the ones that precede the second parashah of Kriyat Shema in our parashah, they tell us that Eretz Yisrael is not like Eretz Mitzrayim. In Egypt, the concept of water is something you can take for granted. You get it straight from the Nile. But in Eretz Yisrael, all of the water that we have depends on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, depends on His supervision, on His guidance. Eretz asher eino Hashem Elokecha ba mireish shana vad achresh shana. That's the zchus of living in Eretz Yisrael. It's an incredible zchus because it punctuates, it accentuates the closeness of the relationship between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But it's also an incredible responsibility because this is where our actions mean that much more, have that much more impact, are that much more severe, that much more significant. That's what the second parashah of Kriyat Shema, that we say every day twice, and that we're supposed to be thinking about constantly, to go to sleep with it and to wake up with it, to understand how deeply significant our own actions are within the framework of a relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I think that today, in these days or weeks or in these months, and specifically when we're united with the rest of Eretz Yisrael, the rest of Israel, and even with the rest of the world, by undergoing a common challenge, a common tragedy of the coronavirus, I think that this idea, this message, ought to resonate with us all the more strongly. Because each one of us, we're all individuals, but we're being scrutinized not just as individuals, but also as representatives of a group that's much larger than who we are individually. Each one of us is seen as representing the Shemrei Torah mitzvahs, those who guard, those who keep, those who observe the mitzvahs, those who are faithful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to the Torah, and indeed as Jews generally. our actions reflect not just upon us, but upon the entire Jewish people. And the way in which we take responsibility for our own actions, for our safety, for the safety of the whole community around us, for our neighbors, for the state of Israel and for the world. The way in which we take those precautions, the way in which we take that responsibility, that's the way in which all of us are being viewed. And the second parashah of Kriyat Shema tells us to take these things seriously, to understand that our deeds have significant consequences for us and for others. We should take this message, keep it close to our hearts, on our minds, on our thoughts and on our hearts, and we should all have a wonderful Shabbos.